Hi, and welcome to Little Fish Comic Book Studio. So what we're going to be doing today is showing you how to do the digitization part 3. I'm working on the Thor by Joe Quesada, and it was originally colored by Danny Mickey, but I'm taking this Joe Quesada Marvel Thor piece, and I'm going to be coloring it in with flat. So I'm going to show you how to do this flat thing here. So where we last left off was we digitally correct in digitizations part 1 and 2 we got the inks together. So today we're going to do the next steps in Photoshop. So let me just zoom in here. So we can see that I've thresholded and adjusted the piece so there's only black and white pixels. The next step is that we're going to take this piece and we're going to switch the layer properties here, which you can get to by either just clicking at the top here and making them a multiply layer, or you can double click on the layer and change the blend mode to multiply. But either way, it needs to be multiply, and it's going to be on top. The next thing we're going to do is lock this layer so we don't actually directly color on it. We don't want to have that happen. The next step is we're going to create a new layer and name it flats. And in the flats layer, I want to drag it below this layer. Now, a couple things that I want you to note that you can switch between. You're going to be using your paint bucket tool and your paint brush tool. On your keyboard, this is your G and B key. Next to the G is an H, and with the H key, if you click that, you can click on the little hand to move around. So basically, my hand is in a format where I'm laying it down on the keyboard between my index fingers on the B, my ring finger is on the G, and my middle finger is on the H. So that way I can just quickly switch in between all the different ones. Now if you click Shift G, it'll switch between the different, so watch this, this is your gradient tool. It'll switch between the different G's, or you can just hold down on there so you have the right paint bucket tool. This is the paint bucket tool you need. This is the brush tool that you need. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select my color that I want to use. I selected this kind of beige color, Caucasian color, because Thor is Asgardian, therefore he's Nordic, which is northern like Europe, and which means he's very white and gigantic. The next thing that I want to do is I want to select the G key or my paint bucket tool, and on my flats layer I'm going to make the first paint bucket dump. Before you start working, if your inks layer is not on multiply, this won't show up, and you also need to have anti-alias, contiguous, and all layers checked. So when I click on this, I can see that it fills in my flats layer with the color that I need. Now you want to be careful not to accidentally click on your black layer. I'll show you why, but this is what your flat layer is looking like. It's your colors are all separated onto a different layer. If I accidentally click my blacks layer, as we can see now, it fills in everything else. You don't want to have that happen while you're working on your comic stuff, however. So you can just Control Z and just make sure you're continually checking back and forth between the two different layers. Now with my brush tool, I can go in and I can color over these specks that the paint bucket is missing, just so I get all the skin tones in the correct area. Now what I can do for the next step is with the bracket tool. It's underneath the backspace. I can move back and forth between the bracket on the left and the right, and it increases and decreases the size of my brush. This won't do anything if you're still on the paint bucket tool, however, because the paint bucket tool doesn't have different sizes. Okay, so now that I have that colored in, I have my flats. So this is the digitization part 3, is just getting these flats colored in the entire piece.